Hello everyone, my name is Octavia and this is the Galilean Library, and it's been a while. It's been a little long since I filmed a video, and today I'm here with a very late November wrap-up. In November, I basically was in a massive reading slump. I finished 2 books and I DNF'd 1 book. And so this is going to be a short wrap-up. I'm going to post links in the description box below of my Goodreads review if you want to see the specific ratings for my parameters and things like that. I am working on a blog to have those things posted in one cohesive place, but I don't know when that's going to be done. So in the meantime, the Goodreads links will have to do. So let's talk about the very few books that I read in November. I will start with the one that I did not finish, and that was Stormfront by Butler. And I know a lot of people love the Dresden Files series. This is the first book in the series, and I don't know. I was not impressed. I thought the writing was very juvenile. The main character was annoying, to say the least. And I'm sure a lot of people actually really like him. Yeah, I just did not enjoy it at all. I think I got about 30% in, 40% in, something like that. So it was getting interesting, but I just didn't have the energy to keep going. So that coupled with my reading, slumpness, this was just not an enjoyable read for me, so I had to drop it. I will say, though, that this is not the last time that we'll be attempting to read this book. I probably will pick it up again sometime in the future, but I have been told by other people that the other books in the series, from book 2 to later on, are better. So that's why I will try to pick this up again, because I do want to read the other books in the series and see if really the writing and the asinine character improve. Yeah, so... Sorry. Actually, no, I'm not sorry. I didn't, happens. The next book that I have is something I did finish and actually really loved, and that is Kindred by Octavia Butler. In this book, we follow Dana, a modern black woman who is snatched from her time and taken back to the antebellum South in the middle of a slave plantation. So, as you can imagine, that is quite a predicament. And Dana is somehow linked to this little boy, and she's called back in time every time his life is in danger. And it's a very gripping novel. So much tension and so many horrible things. Wow. I have to say I really love this book, and Dana was a fantastic character. I ended up giving this 4 stars. I don't remember exactly the rating that I gave on my parameters, but the lowest point for me in the book was the ending. Unfortunately, I did not enjoy the ending in here. I loved everything else, but the ending was kind of a letdown, in my opinion. I thought there were some things that happened. I'm not going to discuss what they were because it would be a spoiler, but things that happen, it becomes really apparent what happens as soon as you start the book, but still I don't want to mention it. But in the end, they just feel like out of place. It felt really like Dana was being punished in a way for, trying to escape her situation, and that's all I'm gonna say. I just really did not enjoy it. I thought it really did not serve the story much, but everything else in this book was amazing. I highly recommend it. It is a very intense book, and even though it is a quick read, I read this I think in 2 days, even though I was in a reading slump, so that's a big statement. It still feels very heavy, so after I read this, I couldn't read anything for like almost a week and a half, probably more, because it is very heavy, in my opinion. There are definitely heavier books out there on the same subject even, but this was a very heavy book, and a trigger warning for all those kinds of abuse that you can imagine will be present in here. But yes, a really, really fantastic book. I highly recommend this. And it was incredibly resonant with today's problems. I feel like there are so many issues today that made this book so much more resonant. And that's, in a way, both a testament to Octavia Butler's really good writing and crafting, and to a terrible time that we're living in, and to terrible things that still happen with racism and racial profiling, for example. And yes, I really, really enjoy this, and yes, highly recommend it. And the last thing that I have to show was my favorite book for November, and definitely one of my favorite books this year as well, and that is The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. And just like Butler, Le Guin is also another classic science fiction writer and fantasy as well. And this is the first book that I've read by her, and I am so happy that I did. This was actually the first thing that I finished in November, but I wanted to talk about it later because it's my favorite. Yes, it was such a fantastic book. I'm running the risk here on talking too much about it and like fawning over it, because I really loved it quite a lot. There's a lot to be said here, a lot to be said about feminism. This is a feminist science fiction book, and a lot to be said about character development. I think that is the strongest part of this book, the characters. They are fantastic. So we follow Guin. I think he's originally from Earth, and in this universe, it's thousands and thousands of years in the future, a non-specified time in the future. Just, it's a lot of time in the future. And Guin is the chosen missionary, if you will, for the Acumen. The Acumen is this galactic civilization formed of humanoid species. All of these species in this universe, which is comprised by several other books by Le Guin, are people who have been they are essentially different forms of humans, technically. So Guin is a missionary for the Acumen in this planet that has recently been contacted by the Acumen, or been found by the Acumen. The planet in question is called Winter, or that is how they call it, because it's very cold there, and every single person in this planet is a hermaphrodite, technically. They don't have a gender until a certain time in the month when their hormones will work at their bodies to change their sex. So depending on who they're next to, or what their desire is, or several other external and internal things, they would change into female or male. And because they don't have a gender for most of their lives, it's very interesting to see how they perceive sex, and how little it and how big it is in their society, but in very different ways than in our society, and how gender is such a very different topic for these people. And I think that's where the strength of the social commentary comes from. But like I said, my favorite part of the book are the characters. Guin and Estroven are the two main characters. Estroven is a native from Winter, and he is trying to help Guin to convince the authorities and the governments to join the Acumen, and to believe that Guin really is what he says he is. Yes, I really highly recommend this book. I thought it was fantastic, and I cannot wait to read more by Ursula K. Le Guin. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I plan on having more videos coming up soon. So the dry spell should be over, and my reading slump is definitely over. I have been reading quite a lot these days, and yes, I should be coming back with another video soon. And yes, I will see you next time. Ciao. And that is The Left Hand of Darkness by Octavia. That's not Octavia Butler. What am I doing?